We estimate over the next decade, there will be a search for 1.2 billion jobs. And these are young people looking for jobs. We estimate that right now, there's only an anticipated 420 million jobs that are going to be on the market. So we've seen progress over the years, but we just haven't seen enough progress. So we decided to launch this initiative, and we've seen a lot of momentum behind it since we launched it, particularly at the following fronts. First and foremost, significant country leadership, which is evidenced by the fact that countries have prepared what we call national energy compacts, which take a look at how each country, and we have 12 that we're discussing during this summit, will address the most significant barriers to meeting access. So we're looking at essentially at 3 tracks. The first track is looking at policy and regulatory barriers and changes and reforms that are needed to unlock the opportunity to get to the access ambition we're trying to reach. The second track is the infrastructure itself, and here we're doing something very neat, which is to overlap geospatial mapping with existing infrastructures to see where the gaps are. And the third track is financing. So we're gathering here with 12 of these compacts being discussed and representation from practically every country across the continent, and we will keep developing these compacts. So I would say there's been significant momentum, significant action taken towards defining very concrete plans. Now, in terms of rural electrification in and of itself, the good news is the last few years has seen tremendous advancement in distributed renewable energy technology. And I'll just finish by this. Mission 300, which is 300 million connected by 2030, anticipates that we will have to at least achieve that through 50% being off-grid. So this technology advancement will really help us. There are certain prerequisites for the private sector to come. And some of those prerequisites are, in fact, to make sure that they see that there is some stability, some certainty around the policy and regulatory framework in the country. That can be anything from the pricing is right, or that the legislation is conducive to being a private sector investor, or in the case of investors operating in rural areas, that they can have access to, let's say, land or other necessities for them to be investors. Even if the policy and regulatory framework provides certainty, sometimes you also need to provide what we call de-risking instruments, which is really to help them through blended finance. Sometimes they need what we call risk-based or results-based financing, which is that we come in and help them smoothen the startup cost, providing a bit of a subsidy for them to get started, and then hopefully over time they can see that profitability come where they can keep investing. So I think the private sector needs some help to get started. We as a development community and development organizations can help that. But I also think we need to keep in mind that the private sector brings the technology, the innovation, the entrepreneurial capacity that we otherwise wouldn't have. We've also seen a strong correlation, and this is very important, between the private sector in distributed renewable energy and job creation. And that's something that is really one of our goals through Mission 300, is through better access to energy, help young people secure jobs for the future. So we have to remember that there is a huge amount of low carbon renewable energy resources in Africa that can play the role of both access to the household level through off-grid smaller solutions, but also larger scale solutions through geothermal and hydro for economic transformation, industrial use, manufacturing. So I think Africa actually has a lot of comparative advantages to a lot of other places. So I don't really see that Mission 300 and accelerating electrification will go contrary to a sustainable, reliable, cleaner energy future for Africa. So for us at the World Bank, we want to have transformational impact Mission 300 is so bold and ambitious, and we believe it will have the impact that also keeps interest in the development organizations. But it also creates huge opportunities for the private sector and for companies from all over the world to help us accelerate energy access, which in turn will create jobs, and will create jobs on the continent in each and every country, which will create a huge opportunity for the population that is looking for jobs. Yes, but it's going to take a lot of work, and it's going to take everybody, and that's what's special also about this summit. We actually have never had the diversity of stakeholders that we have at this summit before, and we've never had the preparedness coming into a summit that we have this time, with national energy compacts being presented that are really clear on what's needed in order to achieve the access target, both in terms of, as I was mentioning, reforms in the country, infrastructure needs, and the financing envelope.